How's it going, everybody? We're going to get into part 2 of creating the coffin. Things that happened over the night is I thought about a couple things, watched a couple channels, saw a couple things. There's going to be subscriptions. I'll link some channels that I like below just to give you a better idea of how to use tools and this, that, and the other. One thing I was looking at is I was looking at a planer. This is a planer. It makes everything all flush and smooth, especially for the edges, molding, because that's what we're going to kind of get into today, is putting on some molding, measuring it out, cutting it with the miter box and the miter saw. So I just want to show you, okay, so this is the planer I got, $10 for this planer at Home Depot. It's by Buck Brothers. No plugs. I'm not shameless. I don't get any money for anything. So I just got it at Home Depot. It was $10. When I tested it on a piece of wood, it looked really good. It's done a good job on my first piece of molding that I put on. So I'm going to go through right now and we'll get to put on some molding. Okay, everybody, so I put molding on this side already. This is kind of what it's going to look like when it's done and finished somewhat. You basically have, it makes a picture frame on your box and it covers up all the side areas that you did, the screws, the nails. Pick you up and we'll look at it real quick from the top. So that's kind of exactly what it looks like. And then later on we will be staining that molding. Now if you notice on the side right here, you'll notice there's a little gap right here. If you can see, it's not flush with the wood all along the edge right here. We're going to fix that, at least most of that. There's the big non-flush part right there. Basically what we're going to do with that is we're going to take our planer. We're going to use our planer, and then from there we're going to plane this piece of wood down till it's almost flush with this board, with the plywood. I might not do it all the way because I'm using the molding as a square. It's going to make my box square. And it's going to make a nice spot for my lid to rest on when I put my lid on. So let's get to molding the other side because I haven't put the molding on the other side, and I'll teach and show you how to do it. Okay, so we see the box right here. You see the imperfections. You see the end of the plywood. With the molding, that's what we're going to cover up. I got a small piece of molding that I've cut from the other side. And we're just going to cover that right up like that and make it look really nice. So to get started, what I want to do is you need to use your tape measure. Always got to have a good tape measure. Tape measures are nice. This is a 12-foot tape measure. It's just going to help you. Things to note about a tape measure. There's the little end right here. If you can see it, basically this little end moves back and forth. So you're not going to get the most square cut using just a tape measure. You use the tape measure in conjunction with the speed square, and from there you will get a much better square cut. So I'm going to start measuring this box to see how long and how high we need our pieces of wood. When taking notes, it's great to have a piece of paper. And make sure that you get the cuts right. Molding is expensive. The molding that I'm using right now costs $17 for one piece of molding. I think the piece of molding is 8 feet long. We'll see it here in a minute. So I'm going to measure from side to side, which is the length, and that's going to be 55 and just about a half. So lengthwise I want 55 and a half. And then for the height, we want, always measure your sides where you're going to put your molding. It's going to make it a lot easier for you at the end, especially if your box is not square. This one's going to be 21 inches. I always work in inches. You can go with feet if you want, but it's easier for me. So then now I'm going to measure the opposite side from the bottom all the way to the top, and that's going to be 21 inches as well. So measure the bottom, because I didn't measure the bottom. Remember, your box might not be square, so you want to make sure. And that's 55.5 exactly on. So since my box is not square, we're going to have to, basically finagle the pieces, make them work so that it looks good. If I was a better woodworker or a carpenter, I'd have probably already had this box squared up, and it would be nice. So let me show you the piece of molding that we're going to use today. One of the pieces, long piece of molding, 8 foot long. It's got a nice intricate design in it. You can buy these at Home Depot or Lowe's, any big box store. It works for me. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of molding. We're going to flip it over. It's going to give us a nice level surface to work on. Make sure you want to note any dings, dents, or scratches on the face of the molding. These are the pieces that we don't necessarily want to use. We want to trash those pieces. So from one side of the molding to the next, I had 55.5. I'm going to have to make 2 of these, one for the top and one for the bottom. So we're going to lay out our tape, lock it down, get your pencil. Always have a good pencil. Some people like mechanical pencils. I find this does just fine. Mechanical pencil, you'll get a much better mark. From what I hear, I haven't used one. And I put a mark on both sides of the tape. That gives me 2 reference points to make a straight line. So on this piece of molding, we're going to assume that it is this side right here is going to be our square side. Most of the time when you get lumber from a big box store, generally they're pretty square. They're not perfect. I'm not just going to tell you that right now. I'm going to flip my piece over right now, off camera. I'm going to lay it back down. And then I got my speed square. Like to have you put this on the edge of your square piece. So as you see, that's going to be my square piece. I put my edge on it, bring it up to my 2 lines. Most of the time my 2 lines don't match up because I'm not a square person. I'm not a mechanical square. So we're going to make our mark right there. It hits 2 lines, but it doesn't get all the way. We're just rough cutting this right now. So then to set up for my cut, because my camera won't show you my cut, I'll try. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take and mark an inch from my cut. Which piece do I not want to use? Well, this piece right here has a little divot in it, so I don't want to use this piece. Great trick from what I learned from YouTube and my dad is put an X, put some sort of mark on it. That means that's your throwaway piece. You don't want to use it. This part over here is my good piece. I don't have any marks on it. So to make my cut with a straight edge and my circular saw right there, I'm going to go ahead and use my speed square. Now, the edge of your circular saw right here has a tape measure on it, okay? So basically you want to take your other tape measure and measure from one side to the other. From this notch right here that's at 0 to this side, to this fence side. And basically right now what my tape measures tell me is it's an inch long. pretty general standard, I believe. So what I'm going to do with my piece of wood and my speed square is I'm going to put this an inch away from where I want to cut. This is going to make cutting a whole lot easier. You're going to get straight cuts when you do that. Good rule of thumb, they always say, measure twice, cut once. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on an inch exactly. And then we're going to go ahead and put a mark on it, make sure our mark is there. And that should be an inch away. So we'll double check. And it's actually exactly an inch between marks. Now, here's where your clamps come in handy. Always when you're clamping, you use two clamps. If you use one clamp, let's say right here, then this can swivel back and forth. You don't want that. I'll put one clamp on this side, one clamp on that side. Put my speed square at my mark. Go ahead and get my clamp. Go ahead and set my clamp on one side, making sure that my mark is still visible. You always want to cut on the other side of your piece of wood, meaning you want to cut on the trash piece of side. The blade is at a certain thickness, so you can see the blade's thickness. You never want to cut straight on your line. You never want to go straight on your line. You always want to cut on the trash piece of your wood, the side that you marked. So we mark our trash side, and we're going to cut on our trash side. This is going to leave our side that we're going to use for our project looking good. So as you see, I have everything clamped up. I got one clamp over on this side. I have another clamp off camera. This is going to hold my wood in a nice sturdy position so I don't cut my hand or anything like that. Remember, safety first. You never want to cut your fingers or digits off. Going to go ahead and put my battery in my saw, and we're going to get to cutting. Basically, put your fence, your side of your blade, this side, up against your speed square. And then just in one motion, go ahead, pull the trigger, and cut. And that's it. And as you see, our piece of wood is cut nice and perfectly. We can still see our line though, which is good. You always kind of want to cut a little bit. Oh, you want to cut on the trash side of your line. That's going to be okay. We're going to use that. And it's going so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up to the box, the coffin as I call it, and I am going to double check my square and make sure that I got it exactly right. Because I'm working alone, I use clamps for just about everything. Like I said, clamps are going to be your best friend or your worst enemy. I like them. I use them all the time. I think they are excellent, especially quick clamps. You can get various clamps for various things. And I noticed that this piece is not going to be exactly where it should be. If you could see that, I'll pick you up, move you over to that side. You see that there's a gap right there. I measured wrong. We're about 1/4 of an inch over on both. That sucks. So, let's try it again. Okay guys, so I figured out my first issue with this piece of molding. I cut it a 1/2 inch too short. Remember we measured 55.5. I only cut it at 55, so I was missing a 1/2 inch. That's $17 down the drain. I'm going to use it actually on the sides of the piece of wood. So I'll still use the wood. It's long enough where I can cut it to smaller lengths, less than 55 inches. So we need two at 21 inches. So 25 and 25 is 50. I got my other pieces right there. Thank you for watching the channel. Please subscribe or wherever the subscribe button is.